Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our brand new state-of-the-art facility here in Bedford, Texas. We are so proud of it. You might have heard of it. 90,000 square feet, absolutely state-of-the-art in every way. We set out to build the finest brick and mortar auction facility in the United States, and we accomplished that. We did it in a big way. We built a cathedral for fine and historic firearms. We built a coliseum for collectors to compete in, with the whole goal of raising the bar for fine and historic firearms, not only here in the United States, but in the world. We want to make what we do, what we sell, what we're so passionate about, more serious, more considered. And so that's what we did here at 3600 Harwood Road in Bedford, Texas. We're very excited about it. We can't encourage you enough to come to the sale. And we're also here promoting our May 17, 18, 19 Premier Firearm Sale. Don't forget about the preview day, May 16th. And if you find yourself in the DFW area, call us. We'll give you a tour. We're very excited about this place. We made an investment in the industry. We've made an investment in ourselves, but we believe in this marketplace. And this building shows it and proves it in a big way. So we're here to do my top 10 for our 4091 auction, this May Premier Sale. And what an auction we have. Like, depth, condition, rarity, collectors, individual pieces, history, energy. The auction has energy. It really does, across every genre that you can think of. And I'm going to try to showcase that today in my top 10. Of course, I always complain about how difficult this job is because it's tough to pick your top 10. So I think this is the only gun, this is going to be my number 10. It's the only one that has one gun in it. So just kind of forewarned, I like to kind of surround stuff with the genres and talk about one piece, but there's so much good stuff. It's just so difficult to do. So number 10 on my list, Winchester Model 21, legendary gun of the forest and field. But this one is special. It's actually very special, as it serial number is W1976. It commemorates the bicentennial, our country's bicentennial, but it also happened to be presented to our 38th President Gerald Ford, which it shows on the case. There's also a beautiful presentation plaque on the underside of the grip. It says, presented to President Gerald Ford, July 4th, 1976. And so I guess it's kind of obvious why it's number 10 on my list, but just a wonderful piece of American history and on an iconic platform. Number 10 on my list, Gerald Ford's Winchester Model 21. Number 9 on my list, told you we're gonna do some themes. I'm calling these my sleepers. Although, I mean, they're hardly sleepers, but they're what I perceive as really great value and things you're not gonna see two of, whether it's this auction or the next one. So let's start with this 1855 rifled musket. Every time I sell one of these on the podium, always rare, always desirable. That's what I say about these, because the 1855s have a wonderful following, and they're always money. It's because they're rare. It's because they're cool, and never doubt the neat factor. But you will not see two of these, and so you'll see it's in the military bright finish. It has the most beautiful select grain wood. This is 4162, show number 4162. Now this is an exhibition gun, and actually I would consider kind of both these guns exhibition guns. And it actually came out of the Bobby Smith collection. If you know 19th century American firearms, you know Bobby Smith was an absolutely legendary dealer, legendary collector, and this is out of his collection, or was out of his collection. So there's kind of three events we point to. Why is it an exhibition gun? Well, of course, we talk about the Philadelphia Centennial, the very famous Colt pinwheel display board of 1876. And if you look in that photo, you'll see 4 1855s. Now, the problem is there's not a great photo of the Colt display board, but you can clearly see 4 across the top, all military bright finish with this select grain wood. And then however, let's back it up a little bit, because during the Civil War, and while they're both exhibition guns, they're also Civil War period guns, the U.S. Sanitary Commission is doing fairs in New York and Chicago to help raise money for wounded veterans. And you'll see 2 Colt display boards. Okay, this is Civil War, 1863, 1864. The very famous photographer Matthew Brady photographed one display board for Cooper and Pond that was produced by Colt, and you'll see 4 of these 1855 military rifles in this configuration, military bright finish with this select grain wood. Also, Skylar Schuyler, Hartley, and Graham board of 1877. So we went from the Sanitary Commission to the 1876 Philadelphia Centennial. Post was the 1877 Schuyler, Hartley, and Graham board. They did several of them. And actually, they famously sold one out of the Jonathan Pett collection in 1991 at Butterfield and Butterfield, and that's still intact. And the two 1855s on that board are actually, the gun before this and the gun after this by serial number. So it's 4160, 4163, 4161, 4163. This gun falls right in the middle of those. So we know this is an exhibition Colt 1855 pattern rifle. Hence, you won't see two of them, and it's absolutely beautiful because the only other known guns are stuck to the board. So this is the only one loose that we know of that we can find. That's why it's number 9. Also, Remington New Model Army 1858, one of the most widely popular Union Civil War sidearms, and but this one's a little bit different. So of the 250,000 produced, this thing is an art object. It's a piece of jewelry. So when we talk about value and what makes an investment quality 19th century American firearm or investment quality firearm period, it's condition, rarity, history, desirability, and this kind of checks all those boxes because it oozes condition, it oozes rarity, it's silver, it's etched, it's engraved, it's got ivory grips. We sold this gun a few years ago out of the Robert M. Lee collection. It's a mountain of a gun for value and quality, and that's why I kind of put it as my other sleeper in my pick. So number 9, 2 exhibition guns, 2 Civil War period guns, but 2 sleepers. Number 8 on my list, let's talk about some Marlins. I'm going to reference some ghost guns that aren't on the table because, well, you can't just do them all, but there's a Marlin Model 20 that's gold and platinum inlaid with a A5 scope on it that'll make you cry. It's that good. It's not here, but I'm using these Marlin 1895s as my number 8 to kind of represent the Marlin grouping in the sale because it's wonderful. I'm not going to handle any of this stuff. I'm just going to kind of point stuff out, but we're going to start up front with a case hardened deluxe 1895 Marlin. I'm a big fan of the word benchmark, which is a standard to measure or judge similar objects. And so when we talk about setting your benchmark, it is what's the newest, mintest example that we can find, and you set that benchmark. And that's what you measure everything up against, because we don't use the word mint. But this 95 that's up front is right there. So a collector friend taught me the word gumball when we're talking about case hardening, which is the browns, the blues, the reds, the greens, and it makes a lot of sense. And he calls his favorite gun gumball, and you could see it here with this Marlin 1895 for how brilliant that case hardening is. And really where it matters is we're talking about mint guns, right? So do they exist, right? You can always find a flaw, but when we go above 95%, we start going 96, 97, 98, you're going to pay X for a 90% gun, you're going to pay Y for a 95% gun, and then everything above that is a multiple at 2 and 3 times. And this is as good as a case hardened standard 1895 as you're ever going to find, period. All the markings are, I'm staring at them here. Everything's puckered, everything's beautiful, just a stunning 1895 deluxe. Right behind it, I don't want to say entry level, it's entry level for this, but a beautiful example of a factory engraved 1895. This is in 4065. All these are half octagon, half round. It's engraved on the barrel. Brilliant case hardening on the frame. See, I would call that 95, I'd call that 98, so you can kind of see the difference, but it's rare because it's engraved. And then right behind it is the deluxe, the arms deluxe. An ultra rare, it's gold, it's platinum. You're looking at Conrad Frederick likely on both these guns. That's Conrad Frederick Ulrich, excuse me. But again, gold and platinum inlaid on the barrel. So anytime we're talking precious metal inlays, you're talking the best. Double panel scenes, and it's really atypical. I'm not going to pick it up, but we're going to get some close-ups here on both sides of the frame, particularly the left side of the frame here. It has one of the coolest panel scenes you're ever going to see, but he used this kind of broad vine leaf and a large open punch dot, 2 different sizes of punch dot. And on this side, you're going to see a bear and a snake. bear and a serpent, and it's wonderful. It's so atypical. I've never personally seen anything else like it, but here's my group of 1895 Marlins that represents the larger group of wonderful Marlins we have in the sale. Number 8 on my list. Number 7 on my list, let's talk about some sporting guns. And again, I have an opportunity to show the breadth, quality, and depth of the sale. So we're gonna examine 150 years of sporting guns. And some of them I just think are cool. Others are world-class and everything in between. Let's start up top. So out of the Norman Blank collection and Keith Neal collection is a 5.77 by Alexander Henry, one of the guns out of the Nizam of Hyderabad Horde. This has a beautiful case. It's dripping in gold, but kind of a nice place to start. And I'm just gonna jump around. So right underneath it, this is a trio. So this Purdy is a 28 bore. They were ordered as a set of 3. They're being sold as a set of 3. We just couldn't fit all 3 of them on the table, so we got a lot of guns. But there are 3 28 bore Simon Cogan Purdys. One of them has an extra 410 barrel. So where do you get the opportunity to acquire something like that? Right underneath it, let's talk about some big bore guns. We have the Rigby 416. So it's a Rigby and the legendary 416 Rigby. What we can confirm is it's one of 2 416 Rigbys. If that makes sense. It's engraved by Allison Hunt. And then right underneath it, we have a beautiful Wesley Richards. I think they would call this their Arms Deluxe by Peter Spode. And it's gold inlaid, it's relief carved. It's also we talked about the bicentennial earlier. So they did a bicentennial series celebrating 200 years in business, 1812 to 2012. And I'm a huge fan of Wesley Richards, huge fan of those guys and what they're building. I actually shoot a virtually identical rifle, .470 Nitro Express 470. I love it to death. Mine just has a little bit less blue, a little bit less case hardening, and a little less gold. But I love it. It's my favorite gun. Everybody asks you, Kevin, what's your favorite gun? And my favorite gun in the whole wide world is my 470 Wesley Richards Nitro Express. I've taken it everywhere, shot a lot of stuff with it. Right underneath, this is just cool. This is the 7th Duke of Atolls Winchester 1876 50-95 Express short rifle with express sights. This came out of a wonderful collection, and again, I mean, it's a hell of a rare gun, but it also has that unlimited cool factor. And the consignor supplies with some wonderful research that her father had done on this piece. And the Duke must have been a pretty cool guy. He ordered this gun originally in New York in 1888. It's never proofed. It does not have British proofs on it. They shipped it right to him in Scotland and avoid the proof house. And he hunted all over the world, literally all over the world. So here's his 50, 95, 76 case hardened deluxe short rifle, again with the express sights. Just a really cool piece. And then the big one on the table, no pun intended, 19th century American sporting arm at its best. Jacob and Samuel Hawken rifle. Now this one is special. Now all Hawkins are special, but this one is even more special. Not only for its behemoth size, which it weighs 19 pounds, but also for its bore dimension. It's a 70 bore Hawken. We believe it's the only one known. This thing is incredibly well documented in Wilson's Peacemakers and Wilson's Teddy Roosevelt Hunter and Conservationist. Now this gun came out of Teddy Roosevelt's personal collection at Sagamore Hill. It was donated to the Boone and Crockett Club, and the Boone and Crockett Club later sold it at a Christie's sale, I believe. Christie's or Sotheby's sale in 1981 to benefit the club. Interestingly enough, it's attributed to Kit Carson from actually Teddy Roosevelt's personal collection. So we're doing some research on it now. Kit Carson was one of TR's great heroes. And it's listed in his collection at Sagamore Hill as Kit Carson's rifle. We're trying to substantiate the claim. Obviously, Kit Carson needs no introduction, and he owned quite a few Hawken rifles, but this has to be the ultimate, a 70 bore, 19 pound out of the 26th president's personal collection, donated to Boone and Crockett and sold to benefit the club. So just a cool grouping of sporting guns, number 7 on my list. Number 6, I put 2 titles. I wrote cartridge Colts, and I scratched and I wrote 98 percenters. We're going to showcase some condition here. So they're both, obviously they're cartridge Colts, but these are 98 percenters in the auction. And there's a collection I'm gonna introduce now, and then we're gonna talk about it later. The Triple T collection, a study of the Colt single action army, and that's what you're about to see. Although there is an embellished gun. So let me just start on my left here. Rarity and condition. Rarity and condition. Bisley flat top target. This is a 1908 gun. It's one of 972 in this configuration. It's in 38, but it's an absolute time capsule. Like I said, 98%. It is a 98%er. Now I'm going to bounce to the other side, and we'll look at a Colt single action. This is antique. This is 1895. A little bit rare. How about one of 122 flat top single actions in this configuration? This shipped post 98 to Albert Foster, but it is an antique. It's an 1895 production gun. It also went to Bill Locke after Albert Foster, so it went 1895 mint gun, Albert Foster, Bill Locke, and it's in his book. Then I'll bounce back. Triple T collection. On my left, just a mint example of a Frontier 6 with the original box. Nickel, 4 3/4. This one might be a 99%er. That's why it's on the table. Just a beautiful, beautiful gun. Bounce over here. Colt Woodsman, qualify rarity. How about one of 155 factory engraved Woodsmans? This is a B coverage gun. It is also like a tweener between 98 and 99%. What more could you want? How about the box that matches the gun with the engraved label? This is also an exhibition gun. You look at the Colt letter and it shipped around. They listed it as an exhibition gun. So check, check, check. And then I do want to finish with this O2 Sporting, which I don't want to say it's my favorite gun in the auction. Well, hell, I'll start now. It's my favorite gun in the auction. I'm going to say that about 10 more times. Again, original picture label box. And there's something about those O2s. I think they're the sleekest, sexiest Colt automatic. And this thing's like a piece of jewelry because it's got that beautiful commercial, high polish, the high niter on the trigger, high niter on the screws, mother of pearl grips. It's just an absolute world beater of a 1902 Colt Sporting. Number 6 on my list, cartridge Colts, or even better yet, my 98%ers. All right, number 5 on my list, halfway through. Stick with me, it's only gonna get better. And let's talk about legendary collector, legendary man, Greg Lampe, who put together a top 10 collection of 19th century American firearms. And we've talked about it before, but Mr. Lampe had, he had his collection as a whole, and then he had kind of siloed. He had his War of 1812, Mexican-American War, Civil War, Old West, a huge collection of Mantons, but he had a vision for it. And so while there's about 24 pieces from Mr. Lampe's collection in the auction, I wanted to pick 5 of them that I thought they're kind of my favorites. They're by no means the best. Some of them are, some of them aren't. They're my favorites. So let's start back here. We'll do a little Indian Wars. So from Mr. Lampe's Indian Wars collection, just the finest Springfield trapdoor carbine in existence. Mr. Lampe bought this gun from us like half a century ago. At least it feels that way. I believe it was like auction 38, auction 39, to give you perspective. We're on auction 91, but it's benchmark, absolute benchmark, and we kind of already touched on that. So as good as you're gonna find ever, period. And then sticking with Indian Wars on my left here is Mr. Lampe's version of a Colt Cavalry. It's a DFC gun. It's a 92, 93%er. It's got everything you want: feathering on the front sight, feathering on the ejector housing, feathering on the grip strap, brilliant case hardening, just a really solid example of an Indian Wars Cavalry. And then we'll jump kind of across here and we can examine the kind of the Wild West collection that Mr. Lampe had, but 2 stunningly rare factory engraved Colts. First on my right is a 41 caliber Colt 1877 Thunderer. This is factory engraved. And then to its immediate left, or my immediate left, is a factory engraved 1878. Now, both of these, for what they are, like if you compare it to a Colt single action, I mean, on an engraved 78, for every 100 factory engraved single actions, we might sell 1 factory engraved 1878. That's how rare they are. And this is a great one with history. It's got Deadwood, South Dakota history. It's a classic Helfrich pattern. And then again, the 41 caliber 1877 Thunder. But the piece I wanted to spend the most time on here is in his percussion Colts in the Civil War. famous gun with a nickname, the Henry Kellogg 1862 Police. I'll start with its collecting kind of provenance. So this gun was originally in the Arnold Chernoff collection. Then it went to Eric Volley, Chester P. Bonoff, Dr. Ed Feldman, and then Greg Lampe collection. So you got collecting royalty, dealer royalty in there. So if it's good enough for them, I promise you it's good enough for you. And the gun has brilliance, right? And that's what we're looking for, and that's what kind of separates it. A little bit of flaking, but where it's not flaked, it is absolutely brilliant, and that's what kind of elevates it to another level for condition. And then the history. So check. Henry Kellogg. So Henry Kellogg he owned the Phoenix Fire Insurance Company, and he was actually an underwriter for Colt. And as you know, Colt had a very famous fire in 1864, and they not only lost, a ton of production, they lost all their tooling. And Mr. Kellogg here underwrote some of their insurance and was instrumental in getting their coverage expeditiously. As Mr. Lampe said, there is no way this gun does not correspond to Mr. Kellogg's contribution to Colt after the 1864 fire. So it's from collecting royalty. It's got wonderful Colt history, and it also has undeniable brilliance. So number 5 on my list is the small selection of the Greg Lampe collection featured in the sale. Number 4 on my list, let's talk about some high art European firearms. Headlined by the Norman Blank collection. I didn't really get an opportunity to speak on Mr. Blank's collection last auction. I don't believe I did any videos. Let me just say this. It was a privilege and a hell of a responsibility to handle the collection. We got to see the collection kind of like entering King Tut's tomb, where the door had been sealed for 20 years. And we got to see this stuff for the first time. A highlight of my career, absolute highlight of my career, because Mr. Blank's a well-known commodity, not just in fine high art European and sporting arms, but vintage Ferraris, just a connoisseur, a Renaissance man, a collector's collector. So let's start back here with this Spanish Michele sporting gun. This is by Fernando Olave, and it's an extremely sophisticated gun, an extremely beautiful gun. I'm better to let the camera do the talking on this, but now you get a kind of a hint and a sense for how good the Blank collection is. Followed by a beautiful example of a sporting gun by none other than Nicolas Noel Boutet. And then let's leapfrog the Lampe shotgun here for a second and talk about this Durzeg superposed flintlock pistol. It's like holding like a big diamond in your hand. It is an absolute exquisite piece of jewelry, piece of firearms making art. It was made for King George IV, well, before he was King George IV. It's got regal monograms on the butt and right on the wrist. It is a absolute joy to hold that gun in your hand, roll it in the light, experience it. Mr. Blank stuff is an absolute experience. So it's one thing to see it in the catalog or see it in these videos, and it's a whole different level to roll it in the light, feel it, and touch it. I mean, it's centuries of arms making and the art that is. And speaking of art, let's talk about the Lampe here in the center. Now, I first saw this gun, we sold this gun, auction had to be 58, 59, about a dozen years ago. And this gun kind of changed the way I perceived high art European firearms. I'd never been exposed to anything like it before. I had one of those light bulb moments when I saw the Milliken Dragoon for the first time back in 2011. It's one of those otherworldly objects that there's this and there's everything else. When we talk about the gun maker's art and we look at this Lampe, this is the height of gun making for Lampe and Gastine. It's late 1850s, kind of through 1860, and between Lampe and Gastine, they won every award that you could at the World's Fairs and these international exhibitions. Gold medals, Grand Prix awards. Lampe and Gastine were at the absolute height of it for these percussion guns. And so I referenced Gastine, who sold that fabulous pair last auction, also out of the Blank collection. And here's its mate, made by Lampe. It's a shotgun. It is polished. It is chiseled, it is relief chiseled, it is carved, it is chased, and was also presented by the President of France, the President of Mexico. The metalwork on it is fabulous, but the carving on the ebony, again, this is ebony, so it's like carving steel, and you don't get to make a mistake. It is as good as anything you will see in the field of any decorative art. That is how good this gun is. That is how good that stock is. Again, it was presented by the President of France to the President of Mexico. And kind of a collecting history. We talk about guns having multiple histories. It was later part of the very famous Harold's Club collection, the casino. And Butterfield would sell this gun in 1994 out of the famous Harold's Club auction. And then it vanished. And we had the opportunity to sell it again. That had to be 2011, 2012. If you're interested, you are lucky to have that next opportunity, because there's no telling if it will ever happen again. So number 4 on my list are high art European guns, headlined by the Norman Blanc collection. Number 3 on my list, I do love Colt single actions, particularly factory engraved Colt single actions. And these come out of the wonderful Triple T collection. I wish this collector would let us use his name, but he does not, and we respect the anonymity. So he has decided to call his collection the Triple T collection. And we kind of introduced it a little bit earlier with the flat top Bisley and the flat top single action. But let's talk about some wonderful single actions. And let's start to my right. I'm just gonna kind of go through and we'll keep it high level. So on my right, San Antonio shipped, Helfrich single action in like condition that you could brush your teeth and shave in. This thing is mirror bright. It is brand new. It's a wonderful Texas shipped first generation Helfrich masterpiece with carved pearls. To its immediate left, talk about rarity. Here, you want to start checking some boxes. Antique black powder frame, factory engraved, Frontier 6 with the etched panel. Another Helfrich gun, but man, you start talking rarity. Those black powder factory engraved guns are tough. Try to keep it high level. This gun has an S stamped right above the serial number. Went to Simmons Hardware. It originally left as a 5.5 inch gun. Now it's a 4 3/4. This gun shipped back to Colt. It says it right in the factory letter. So it went from a 5.5 to a 4 3/4. The theory being this was one of Simmons' sample guns. They had about 17 of them in this range. They didn't sell it until like 1915. So it's an antique gun that Simmons ordered. They kept. They put an S on it. It's 4 3/4 factory engraved black powder frame, etched panel. Like, what else do you want? I'm gonna skip the middle gun. I'm gonna go to my left. We're gonna stay in Texas, Fort Worth. This is Glon. Now, again, it is mirror bright. This is again condition you can brush your teeth in and shave. Glon engraved, beautiful carved ivory steer grips, Fort Worth shipped, Wolf and Clark. Right behind it, now we're talking about rarity, we're talking about depth. This is what this whole thing is about. How about a sheriff's model, 3-inch sheriff's model with double carved pearl eagle head grips. Double carved pearl eagle head grips. Now, maybe the toughest gun on the table, engraved Bisley. So we talked about 1878s 2 videos ago, number 5. Yes, and these are just as tough, factory engraved Bisleys. And most of the Bisleys that actually letter as factory engraved went back. They went back like 1912, 1913, and were engraved subsequently. This gun, not the case. It's shipped soft. So this is a New York engraved gun. It was sent to New York with the intentions of being engraved. So it's your next best thing, but it's a great one. I mean, it's a great one in all capital letters. An extremely tough New York engraved Bisley. And then we'll bounce back to the middle, and this is as good as it gets. This is, worth trading your firstborn. Maybe not your firstborn, but definitely your secondborn. It is that good. 7.5 inch Glon, blue case hardened, carved steer head ivories that letters to an absolute T. Just a mountain of a gun. And all investment quality, everything on this table. But I always preach condition. And it's here in force. It's in the auction force. But this 7.5 inch gun, it speaks to me. Single actions are baseball and apple pie. They are as American as it gets. They're as neat as it gets. Only 357,800 first gen guns. And less than 2% are factory engraved. So you're looking at just you're looking at nuance, variation, different engravers, all here. Triple T collection, number 3 on my list. Number 2, let's talk about some, not good, not great. Let's talk about some exceptional Winchesters. I do, and again, I'm partial to 19th century American firearms, but when I think of brands like Smith & Wesson, Colt, Winchester, I think of John Deere, Harley Davidson, like iconic brands. And I wish they were celebrated more. And that's what we aim to do. 2, like I said, extraordinary, exceptional Winchesters. Let's start up front with the Winchester 1892. I always try to quantify and qualify rarity when we can, because I think that's so important, and do population reports of, known examples. So factory engraved Winchester 1892, it's a big deal. So are you a Winchester collector? Do you have engraved Winchester? Do you collect lever action Winchester rifles, particularly factory engraved lever action Winchesters? And I want you to look in your collection, look at your wall, look in your safe, and I'm gonna bet most people have a hole when it comes to a factory engraved Winchester 1892. They are the absolute hardest example to find of any of the conventional. When I say conventional, I'm talking 66, 73, 76, 86, 92, 94. 92s are the absolute toughest for factory engraved. They're widely, working man's guns. You don't see factory embellished examples. So that's what we have here. It's a 4440, it's a takedown, it's deluxe pistol grip, beautiful panel scene on the left-hand side. It's proudly signed John Ulrich on the lower tang. It's got a really neat silver inscription on the right side of the frame that letters to a T. And so, in Winchester collecting, man, the letter is so important, right? And so often it leaves something to the imagination. Why doesn't it explain this? It only says $25 engraved or $5 engraved, and they left stuff out, or they don't elaborate, and that's like, oh, I just wish we knew more. Not the case on this 92. Factory engraved, John Ulrich signed, 4440 takedown deluxe 92. Like, set your sights there, and it's at a beautiful price point. That is, no one needs their next $10,000 gun or $25,000 gun, but if you're in this field, if you're game, if you're playing, here's a prime example of a great factory engraved 92 for you. To put this further into perspective, again, quantify it, qualify it. In 30 years of auctioning rare and historic firearms, factory engraved Winchesters, almost 1 million records on this, we have sold 8 factory engraved 92s. 8 factory engraved 92s. That's how rare these are. Now moving backwards, this is my favorite gun on sale. Have I said that yet? This is an advanced gun. Okay, it's an advanced gun for decoration. It's an advanced gun for those who study extremely fine, ultra deluxe Winchester rifles. There's subtleties, there's nuances. So putting it into perspective, 720,000 Winchester 1873s manufactured. All the way up from 1873 to 1923, 50 years of manufacturing. The 73 is an absolute legend, right? The gun that won the West. But this gun is gold inlaid. It's silver inlaid, and I believe it's platinum inlaid. It's got three precious metal inlays here at the breech and at the muzzle. The one is toning. That's why I think the one's silver and the other one's platinum, because it's happening in both places. This is one of 8 factory gold inlaid Winchester 1873s that I could find. So this is one of 8. This being a brand new, totally fresh, out of the woodwork find. I'm still doing research on this gun. I'll just say that we're still doing research on this gun. It's a second model. Serial number is 33691. I'm referencing Mattis's book here. Second model Winchester 1873. Serial number is 33669. 33669. This is 33691. They're 30 numbers apart. And that gun also has precious metal inlays. Silver, gold, platinum at the breech and at the muzzle. Here's the interesting thing about that gun is it's only 30 numbers away. That's 1879. The production on this gun is 1879, just like that other rifle. However, that gun was presented in 1882. It's kind of a famous gun presented to a marshal in Caldwell, Kansas, who ended up being hung later. But The point I'm trying to make is I believe these guns to be exhibition guns. I can't prove it. This gun shipped in 79. That gun also had to ship in 79. But it's interesting that that gun was presented in 82, which my thought process is that gun was maintained by the factory as some sort of exhibition piece, display piece, and then wasn't sold until it was presented in 1882. If my math makes sense to what I'm trying to say. Because what I said about this gun being absolutely fresh as the day is long, never before photographed, never before written about, published, totally unknown to the collecting world, we found this gun in Spain. This gun came from Spain. We've known about this gun for 6 or 7 months, and man, you talk about the anticipation when you're waiting on it. Why this gun is also elite, and I like to use that word elite, is its embellishment, right? It's relief engraved. So it's relief engraved on both panel scenes. I have not found a signature on this gun. Now, put it all on the line. We're gonna find a signature on this gun. The stock is like frozen to it. This thing has just been put away for 100 years, but it is as good, as rare. And we've sold some of the best 73s. When I think of 73s, engraved 73s, my mind goes straight to that Marco Soto 73. Which was 16,000 range gun, and that thing was, and I think of that frame on that gun, just relief, chiseled, carved. That was also a John Ulrich gun. I have no doubt in my mind that we'll find a J. Ulrich signature on this gun. But again, it's the gold frame, gold bands, precious metal, and I mean, I would say stay tuned, because this is as advanced as it gets for what we do. This is the type of stuff that we love to dive into, find out, dig. I mean, we're kind of trailblazing, we're pioneering on this stuff. So this is the stuff that like makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. And it's right here, it's this gun, it's this 73. So it is number 2 on my list. Okay, we made it, we're here. Number 1 on my top 10, May 17, 18, 19. Premier Firearms Auction, we're gonna hold it here at our fabulous location at 3600 Hardwood Road in Bedford, Texas. I'm so glad we did this. I'm so glad we got to promote this venue here. We're so excited about it. We want to share it. So we hope this encourages you to come see it, come check it out. It's an unbelievable venue. If you're an enthusiast, if you're a historian, if you're a gun collector of any sorts, you have to make it down. And we're 10 minutes from DFW Airport, and there's so much to do down here. We can't say enough good things. And we've made an investment in this industry. We've made an investment in ourselves. We just believe in finding historic firearms. We believe they have a lot of room to go and a lot of room to grow. We've been in the auction business for 30 years. Every big gun, whether it be a $10,000 gun all the way on up to name a 6-figure gun, these guns are responsibilities, they're opportunities. We went so long, scratched, clawed, brick by brick, to get an opportunity to sell a Colt Walker, or the opportunity to sell a Patterson, let alone a number 5 Texas Patterson. How about a Winchester 1873 101,000, or a fabulous iron frame Henry rifle? Like, pinch me. We have 4 of them right here. They're in this auction. It's a dream come true. What an opportunity it is to have one, let alone all 4, let alone everything else we've talked about. So, like, the responsibility, like, we shoulder it, we feel it. We want to portray this in the most positive light and turn the light bulb on for 100,000 people to say, I should be doing this. And so that's what we're here to do. So number 1 on my list, I'm gonna have some fun with this because I really enjoy this history here. And from a 19th century American history, but to the gun collecting history. So let's dive in. I wanna go up front, okay? I wanna talk about this 9-inch Texas Patterson. So of course they had the number 1 Patterson, the babies, the number 2s, the number 3s, which you'll see in flared grip or straight grip, but the king of all Pattersons is the number 5, 36 caliber. This is a 9-inch variation, but the number 5 Texas or the number 5 holsters they reign supreme when it comes to Pattersons. And here's why. The Patterson birthed the Colt. And let's just talk about that. So the military contracts for Colt, that was what he was trying to lasso, was military contracts for, at the time, this revolutionary weapon, right? Repeating firearm, a revolver. And so he did find a little bit of success, which is we have the U.S. government, specifically the U.S. Navy, puts an order in for 150 number 5 Patterson revolvers. Now, what they got as opposed to what they ordered are two different things. What they received was 100 number 5 Texas Pattersons and 100 carbines. That went to the Pacific Fleet. Subsequently, they get another 50 guns. These have levers, so these are the Ehlers model number 5s. And they're inspected by William Thornton. So you see the WAT. These are the only Pattersons that are inspected by the U.S. government, are those 50. They're the 9-inch, they have the Ehlers lever. So you have those 50. Now, more famously, the Republic of Texas places an order for 180 9-inch number 5 Texas Pattersons. There's no Marshall markings on these guns. And that's in 1839. This gun's still number 490. So you're like square. You're right on that timeline. 1839, your second year into production, for that 180 guns that gets delivered to the Texas Navy. Those 9-inch guns subsequently get dispersed to the Texas Rangers. And you might have heard of a few Texas Rangers called, Jack Hayes and Samuel Walker. They fight at a battle called Walker's Creek, right? And this is this seminal lightning bolt striking moment where you have mounted Texas Rangers, white men, that rout the Comanches on horseback for the first time. And they did it with their Texas Pattersons. It's an evolutionary moment in, quite frankly, combat history, right? Where you have a mounted cavalry soldier who's going to actually fight from horseback, not a dragoon soldier who's going to ride into battle on horseback and then get off. This is mounted cavalry. So, and they did this with the Texas Patterson number 5s. They said they had a shot for every finger on their hand, and that's exactly what they had. So the Comanches were used to single shot, muzzle loading rifles. They take their shot, wait for them to shoot, and then charge. And that's what they did. And here we have the Texas Rangers under Jack Hayes absolutely rout the Comanches. Battle of Walker's Creek. But the Patterson was flawed. What do we have next? Whoa. We have Samuel Walker, who fought at Walker's Creek, starts communicating with Samuel Colt. Your gun is revolutionary. It's proof of concept for Colt, but it's got some flaws. We need to make some improvements. And that's what they did with the Colt Walker. So the Walker is named after Samuel Walker, and the Battle of Walker's Creek is immortalized on the cylinder scene. That's what you see. It's the Texas Rangers fighting the Comanche Indians on horseback. That is a cylinder scene on the Colt Walker. So that's what we'll go to next. We have B Company 102 Colt Walker. The governor, I would say it every time, the governor named the Colt Walker the official revolver of the state of Texas, and rightfully so, right? Again, they only made 1,000 Colt Walkers, Marshall guns. They were issued in pairs 1 through 220. Issued per company. Samuel Walker's company is C Company. We sold a beautiful C Company gun out of Greg Lampe's collection last auction. C Company got their 220 Walkers, and then it was A, B, D, and E only got 120, hence you get 1,000 Walkers. This particular example is B Company 102. Anytime you get a chance to see a Walker, do it. Put it in your hand, look at it, inspect it. They were the definition of road hard and put away wet. And so this is a really neat example for two reasons. One, they talk about how hard the Walkers were put through service, and they talk about specifically how these Walkers were cleaned. They take the cylinder out, put the cylinders in a big pot of boiling water. When guns were clean, everybody would pull a cylinder out, put it back in their gun. So you have B Company 102 frame, barrel, arbor pin, grip strap, front strap, but you have B Company 106 cylinder. It speaks directly to that. It's also engraved underneath the grip, so to General Vasquez. And this gun goes back to, I think, Herb Glass Sr. writes a letter on this gun late 70s, early 80s. This was out of the Far West Hobby Shop, the famous David Ingalls collection, at the turn of the century when it sold. And now we had Herb Jr. authenticated again. We have another letter from Herb Jr. The gun's been around, and I think what Herb Jr. states is that this gun is far above average for a Colt Walker, and that's exactly what you have. The loading lever is a Dragoon replacement. There might be a few other replacement parts, which is like head and shoulders above 90% of Walkers, which, when they judged the parade of Walkers, they were looking for an original part or several original parts. This is a complete Walker. And the cylinder, and you start getting into Walkers and you start comparing certain parts to other parts, but the cylinder is as good as it gets. Beautiful pressure ring, beautiful cylinder scene again, kind of, Samuel Colt's head nod to the Texas Rangers carrying the number 5 holster. So it's cool to have them together, especially that 9-inch gun. We can't say that 9-inch gun was there. I can't say it wasn't there. So do the math. All right, let's go to Colt from Winchester. So we just talked about a 73. And again, 720,000 produced. This is a 1 in 1,000. I'm not going to get into the history of the 1950 Universal Movie Search. I'm not going to get into the history of the 1 in 1,000 as a marketing ploy. What I will say is, of the 720,000 Winchester 1873s produced, they sold 132 1 in 1,000 73s. 132. Of those 132, I believe there's some books cite 50, 55, 60, say 60 examples known today. And we've had the unbelievable privilege of handling some of the best. We sold the very famous 1876 Centennial 1 in 1,000 a long time ago. We just sold Thomas Stewart's Winchester 1873 1 in 1,000. We sold Granville Stewart's 1873 1 in 1,000. We sold the Midas Bull 1873 1 in 1,000. And so on. This is, and not to mention 1 in 100s or 76s. For an 1873 1 in 1,000, this came out of Norm Bagley's collection. He sold it to where it's consigned from, more or less. This is as good as something gets. It is a beautiful example of a Winchester 1873 1 in 1,000. It's got to be it's definitely in the top 10 for known Winchester 1873 1 in 1,000s, because it's got brilliant blue, stunning and solid, 70% case hardened, straight grip deluxe. It's full octagon. It's that full configuration that you want, and it is not, for 1 in 1,000. It's not in good condition. It is in great condition. And then we'll conclude with this stunning iron frame. This is originally out of the Tommy Rolls collection. It's serial number 90, and there's a lot of information, right, on Henrys and production ranges. So what you'll see is that they'll say they made 15,000 Henrys, which I think everyone's kind of on the same page. No, they didn't quite make 15,000 Henry rifles. There are large gaps between 1 and 15,000 where there are no reported guns. And these iron frames are confusing too. The highest number reported for iron frames is 355, but there's duplicate serial numbers. So there are brass frame with the same serial number as iron frame guns. But going back to the big number, and you say, okay, let's just say there were 13,000 Henry rifles produced. So, you're doing the math, and we're saying there's 13,000 Henry rifles produced starting in 1861, and 2% of all Henry rifles were iron frames. And what you're looking at here is the third best example known to mankind. It's serial number 90. It's a very famous gun. It was out of the Tommy Rolls collection. You have, call it 85% original blue on the barrel, which is, that's astonishing for any Henry rifle, let alone an iron frame. And what really, separates the men from the boys is the frame. Obviously, it's a first model. It's got no catch, but the blue on the frame and the internals, it's a time capsule. Every screw is indexed. Look no further, ladies and gentlemen. We sold the McCroskey Henry a dozen years ago for $655,000, and that gun is gone. So you want an iron frame, you want to own one of the best, here is your opportunity. So what a pleasure it is to sit with, call them the Big Four, and to have them in the same sale, and to have them just, in harmony with one another and everything else in the auction. We really can't encourage you guys enough to come check out this venue. Come see us. We're excited about it. It's 90,000 square feet. It's the best firearms museum you've ever seen, the greatest display you've ever seen, one of the most electric and exciting auctions we've ever had. It's at a great time. The preview day is May 16th. The auction's May 17, 18, 19. And it's also, so the NRA convention's going on here in Dallas. So if you're thinking about going to the NRA convention, you can do both. You can kill two birds with one stone. Looking forward to seeing everybody in Texas.